How's it going, my trim people? Dr. Slacking, the Slacking Doctor, back with week 5 or 6. I want to say week 5, but I could be wrong. Of the PGBL, and this week your Bowling Bovines are taking on the Killer Nacho and his Miami Dolphiones. His link, along with everyone else's, will be down in the description. Go ahead and check him out. Much bigger channel than mine, deserves all the love and support he gets. Fantastic content creator, does a load of Wi-Fi battles. I've been watching pretty much all of his PGBL videos, I think. Yeah, definitely a top guy and very good content creator, so go and check him out. Regardless. If you didn't see the team builder yesterday, I uploaded a much longer team builder, 20-minute long. So far, the reception to that has been reasonably good, but I think it's been less viewed than a normal team builder, which suggests to me that the people that are watching it really like it. The people that aren't are maybe being put off by the length. So I might try and meet halfway and do like a 15-minute where I go into more detail than normal, but not as much as I did in that one. I don't know. I'm going to try and make it a little bit more streamlined, but still detailed, essentially. Because I have a tendency to ramble on, just like this. Anyway, I want to talk about this matchup. I'm just eating cake, so if you see me like taking a sip of water, because I just had cake and I feel like I've got cake all around my mouth now. It was nice cake, decent. Marks and sparks, chocolate, not too bad. Anyway, the team builder, I went into a bit more detail, and I'm going to try and go into a bit of detail on this game, because this is a game that I have a lot to say about, and I think there are some really kind of teachable moments in this game. I'm going to try and not to spoil the result of the game as much as possible, but I do want to talk really transparently about good and bad plays in this game, and my analysis of it, because like I say, I feel like if you guys are relatively new to the channel, if you haven't been subscribed that long, I've always said that this channel has been all about learning competitive Pokemon. I've never professed to be the most complete or best Pokemon player in the world. In fact, if you go back and look at my early Draft League battles, I was dire, absolutely dire. But my hope is that while I'm learning, you guys can be learning too, and this can be like an educational thing for all of us involved, as well as an entertainment thing, of course. So this game is going to be one of those where I really try and analyze a lot that goes well and that doesn't go so well. So let's talk about team preview, and let's quickly run down the team we are bringing in for those of you that didn't watch Team Builder. We have got a max speed, max special attack, 3 attacks Zapdos. We have a sharp beak, 4 attacks Dodrio. We have a Black Sludge, Spadef, Rocks, Nidoqueen. We have an Ockerberry, Defog, knockoff Bullet Punch, U-turn, Scissor. He has a Skarmory on his draft, and I didn't want to get Hazard stacked, so I felt like I did need to bring Defog over something like Pursuit, for example, which otherwise I might have wanted, or Sword Stance even. We have an Adrenaline Orb, Sword Stance, Breloom. He has double Intimidate on his team, although he's only brought one of them in the Mega Manetric, but he does have an Incineroar as well. If we can get a Sword Stance off, they come in with an Intimidate and lower us to +1, but give us a +1 speed with like a Dragon Dance Breloom, pretty scary. And then we have a 3 attacks Recover Mega Alakazam to potentially 1v1 things like Spadef, Pursuit, type Null, and things like that could otherwise be a little bit problematic. So looking at my opponent's team, Mega Manetric, I'm expecting to just be 4 attacks like Flamethrower / Overheat, Hidden Power, Ice, Thunderbolt, Volt Switch. It could be Sub over Volt Switch or something like that, but in essence something like that. Maybe Toxic too. The Keldeo, I don't think can be a choice variant. I could see something like Sub-Toxic Taunt. I could see something like just Sub-Toxic, Protect. I definitely think like a lefty's Sub-Toxic variant, just because I have things like the Jellicent that are immune to both of Keldeo's stabs, and Keldeo's move pool is famously shallow, so I just don't see a choice variant being that effective, or an all-out offensive variant being that effective, unless you're very confident of handling Jellicent. And looking at my opponent's team composition, he does have the Mega Manetric and stuff, and the Mimikyu, but it's not like he has Pursuit Trappers or anything that can indefinitely remove Jellicent, so, you know, maybe it doesn't have the safest switch insta Jellicent either on the offensive side of things, not having any Ghost Resists on his draft here, or on his team here, so again, like, switching in on Hexes or Shadow Balls could be problematic for him, so that's why I'm kind of like, I don't think that it would be choice Keldeo. The Garchomp, I don't think Garchomp is Z on his draft. I'm pretty sure it isn't. So I could see a Banded or Sub or Rocky Helmet or Scarf. Any Garchomp variant I think could be good here. Honestly, something like Scarf Outrage doesn't even look bad, because my Fairy type being Diancie isn't a good Garchomp check, obviously with Earthquake. So it's one of those things where I could potentially not even bring my Diancie, as I haven't, and then Scarf Outrage looks really scary. I do have double Steel types in Scizor and Lucario. First week that we're not bringing Lucario on this team, but they're not good Dragon Resists. They're not good Steel types in that sense. Then the Mimikyu, I'm expecting to just be like Sword Stance Z, Shadow Sneak, Shadow Claw maybe, Play Rough definitely. I just think that makes the most sense. It's a standard set, but it's standard because it does work, and it really does against my team. Scarf Ditto almost certainly for setup threats like Lucario, Scizor, Breloom, etc. Also decent revenge killer to the faster ones on my team like Dodrio if I'm not scarfed. And then the Espeon, I saw Assault Vest in mocks, but I'm not necessarily expecting that. It could easily be, but I could see something like a Resist Berry coming just as well. Potentially like Tanga Berry, so you can stay in on a U-turn from Scissor and Hidden Power Fire it. Potentially Kasib Berry, so you could stay in on a Shadow Ball from Megalakazam and Shadow Ball it back. Potentially Colbur Berry, so you could take a knockoff or a pursuit from various things as well, such as the Scissor or the Dodrio, numerous things like that. But it could easily be an AV so that it can come in on Nidoqueen and stop rocks from going up, which is exactly why I think it was Aquarius used that in mocks. Huge shout out to Dean, Arctic Foss, and Aquarius for mocking with me for this game. This was one that I wasn't happy with my build. I said this in the team builder. I think my matchup was tough. I mentioned in my team builder that I would be more confident if I saw my opponent bringing a defensive to balanced team. If my opponent brought all offensive mons, I'd be a little bit scared, and my opponent has brought pretty much offense. Like, there's what on his team is defensive, maybe Tank Chomp, but that's really it. Everything else looks to be offensive. So this was not the team archetype I was hoping to face here. I feel like my team composition has worse matchup against this. I just felt like, having watched my opponent's other games, he would bring a bulkier team with things like Incineroar, maybe even Type Null and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely got my analysis of my opponent a little bit wrong there, and his team composition just caught me hugely off guard. So getting into the actual analysis of this game, one of the first kind of teachable moments I want to talk about when you're selecting your lead matchup, and particularly when I was selecting my lead matchup in this one. Now, this is not to give an excuse, but full disclaimer, I do feel I played, especially the early game of this, subpar. I travelled to Wales and back the day that we did this with my brother. I was absolutely shattered. It just happened to be the only day we could schedule. It was fair enough. No complaints there, but some of my plays early game especially are sloppy, and I feel like a part of that is just tiredness. We don't talk about this enough in Pokemon, but it's such a mental game. It's not like if you're playing football or you're playing rugby or you're playing any of those sports where, you know, as long as you can run around a lot and you're strong and you're fast, you can get by if your brain isn't in it a little bit. You can still do the physical legwork. In Pokemon, it doesn't work like that. If your brain is not switched on, then you're just going to be bad. So, I decided to lead off with my Zapdos here, and the reason that I want to talk about this is because this is actually really, really rough positioning. The reason I did it is because it led well against a Garchomp, so it stopped him from getting hazards up early. I didn't really want to be defogging against such an offensive team like his. I felt like defog just gave him free momentum, and that would be bad in this kind of matchup, so I was like, alright, let's just not let him get rocks up by leading off with Zapdos, or let me rephrase that, pressuring him instantly if he does try to get rocks up by leading off with Zapdos. It also leads well against the Keldeo, which I cannot switch in on. My team hates switching in on Keldeo because I didn't bring the Jellicent. I just hoped that he wouldn't bring the Keldeo. Really, really poor from me. I should have tried Jellicent in this match 100%. I love Jellicent. I just thought it would scare away the Keldeo. But the reason that Zapdos is not great in this game is because if he leads off with the Manectric, which is a perfectly valid lead against my team, it leads well against essentially everything barring the Nidoqueen. It puts me in a bit of a tough spot because he can Hidden Power Ice into a Zapdos, still get a ton of damage off, and my one kind of Manectric switch in Nidoqueen also takes a ton of damage from Hidden Power Ice. So it puts me in a bad spot where I am essentially just giving him huge damage on something if he chooses to lead off with the Manectric. So that's why in isolation, as just solely a lead matchup, it's bad. But the problems with it do run a little bit deeper than that, and I'm going to get onto that in just a second. So I do lead off with Pedro. I could just stay in here in Heat Wave and get huge damage off on this Manectric because I am a massively offensive Zapdos. And I'm not even sure that Hidden Power Ice 2-Hit KOs me. Thunderbolt definitely does, but I'm not even sure that Hidden Power Ice 2-Hit KOs me ever. So I could just go for the big Heat Wave here, but I don't. I go out into Nidoqueen thinking, okay, if Hidden Power Ice doesn't 2-Hit KO Zapdos, then he's probably going to go for the Thunderbolt to make sure he 2-Hit KOs me. I've shown on pressure, I could just be Toxic Roost and just pressure Toxic Storm him right now, and that would be really, really bad. Now, I do know that my opponent has seen at least some of my games, and I'm not really that type of player, and based on that analysis, this Hidden Power Ice that he does click is fairly free. I think it was fairly free anyway. It was hopeful thinking, wishful thinking that he wouldn't go for it, but I really should have just Heat Waved there and got chip off on the Manectric. Zapdos was intended to be a bulky wall breaker. I should use it as such and let it take damage, but instead I'm trying to take 0 damage. Here I go for the Earth Power. If he predicts me to go for rocks, he could try and stay in, but I feel like, why? If you predicted me to go to rocks, you go out with the Espeon, so I'm just going to go for the Earth Power. It covers both. If he stays in, predicting me to go for rocks for some bizarre reason, he gives me his Manectric, great. If he goes out to Nidoqueen, I get damage, as he does reveal there to be Assault Vest Espeon, which sucks. Like, that is the last thing I wanted to see, so I can pivot out into my scissor here. If he makes the hard read and goes for a hidden power fire, then damn, he's really got me, and I'll be in a very, very tough spot. But this circles back to my point about poor lead Zapdos and talking about Zapdos being a bad lead in isolation because of the Manectric matchup, but now taking it out of isolation, not talking about whether Zapdos can 1v1 Manectric or not, talking about how it actually gives me positioning for the rest of this game. Now I've taken 45% on my Nidoqueen in exchange for 30% on his Espeon. I don't need chip on his Espeon to win this game. Espeon isn't really a problem to me. It looks as though from Team Preview my best win con is going to be Mega Alakazam. I've got to figure out what the Scarfer is maybe on his team, looking like it could be Garchomp maybe. And I've got to do something about the Mimikyu, but that was always going to happen anyway. But I don't really need chip on this Espeon, because it's Assault Vest, it doesn't hurt to have chip on it, mind you, but I can still beat this with Dodrio, I can still beat this with Zapdos, I can still, I can chip this down with a number of things. I needed health on Nidoqueen because this is going to be an offensive game. That Manectric now looks set to break my team very, very badly. I really struggled to switch in on that Manectric now. So this is where I just don't feel like it gave me good positioning, because again, I could have tried to double here into Scissor, predicting the Espeon. I would have got zero chip on Espeon, but I could have maybe then got a free U-turn off and got big damage off on something else. And actually switching in on U-turn isn't easy for his team. He would have had to go into like the Garchomp or something to give me rough skin, and then that would have got me back into my Zapdos to then apply the offensive pressure with my Zapdos that I wanted to do from the beginning. Similarly, if I had seen that he wasn't a Scarf variant of Garchomp, I could have gone into my Mega Alakazam and applied a bunch of pressure with Mega Alakazam. So you see already that there was just so many plays that would have left me in a better spot here, but I felt like I couldn't double into my Scissor on this Espeon, because if he did just stay in Henna Power Ice with his Manectric again, then he could Flamethrower the next turn. I still can't switch in on Manectric, so I'd have to go back to Nidoqueen on the Flamethrower / Overheat and take more chip on Nidoqueen. So Zapdos, not just in terms of 1v1ing Manectric, but in terms of how the game plays out from that point, I'm really unable to recover momentum well in this game. Yes, I've got some chip off on the Espeon, but it's not what I needed. It doesn't give me a lot. It's not very valuable to me at this point in the game, honestly. I'm going to go out to Scissor here. I am Ockerberry, so if he goes with the Hidden Power Fire, I'm not going to just drop to it straight up, but it would be a very aggressive play for him to do that. He does do that. I suspect this man had at least watched one of my games and felt like he could have a bit of a handle on how I'm playing, because I certainly watched his games and I hadn't seen him play this aggressively against anyone, really. Here, I don't go for the Bullet Punch, because a Bullet Punch, obviously I am at a max attack, wouldn't KO, but would put him so low he couldn't switch in on Nidoqueen anymore. And I'm like, no, I think he's ran this Assault Vest deliberately for the Nidoqueen. So I feel like this is a designated Nidoqueen check. Now, he could fear the Pursuit, and I spoke to him after the game, and he did fear the Pursuit. But because I feel like I catch people out with Pursuit Scissors so often, I feel like a lot of people just don't expect it. I'm like, I don't think he's going to switch predicting it. But as he explained quite correctly to me after the game, well, if he switches out and I click Pursuit, he loses his Espeon for nothing. If he stays in Hidden Power Fires and I click Pursuit, I lose my Scissor for nothing. If he stays in, I click Bullet Punch and he Hidden Power Fires. Okay, he loses a ton of health on his Espeon, but I can't kill him without being banded, and he knows I'm not banded because I was Ockerberry. So this way he guarantees gets some value out of his Espeon. Even if I Pursuit, he gets some value, whereas if he switches and I Pursuits, he gets no value out of his Espeon. So this was all around his best play, and I completely agree, but because I'm trying to regain momentum in this game, I'm making plays that are not good. This is just not a good play, and I actually click a U-turn here because I don't even have the Pursuit. I just gambled on him wanting to preserve his Espeon for the Nidoqueen, and I just go for the U-turn. So now I've lost 45% on my Nidoqueen and a whole Scissor in exchange for 30% on an Espeon that I don't even really care about. It's not good. I go out to Dodrio. I have to try and bluff Scarf here. I'm just going to go for the return as he goes out into the Manectric. I understand why he went to Manectric. He's basically trying to predict if I'm Brave Birding or returning. If he goes into the Mimikyu on a return, it's great. If he goes into the Manectric on a Brave Bird, it's great. He's got to predict which one I'm going to go for. So, understandably, he predicts me to go for the one that doesn't have an immunity, right? Brave Bird doesn't have an immunity. Return does, and if I return there, I get nothing for it. So I completely understand why he made that play, but that's also why I make the play I make. Because, again, if he does go into Mimikyu, then I'm just going to have to Brave Bird it. I still have things like Zapdos at a good range of health to deal with the Mimikyu potentially later in the game. And I don't mind getting its Disguise broken. I'm okay with that, especially if he thinks I'm Scarf and he's going to try and set up on me. So I don't mind, like, bluffing the Scarf there a little bit. He goes out into Manectric, and I get the crit. I don't want to kill this Manectric particularly because I want it Intimidate around for my Adrenaline or Breloom, so I'm not even that happy about the crit, frankly. But it lives just on a Slither, so that's fine. And he's going to go out here into his Mimikyu. Now, I did consider just Brave Bird in here, but with his Manectric so low on health, there is a chance that he just sacks it. There is a chance that he just sacks it. I think if he sacks it, he probably goes for the Thunderbolt, but he could go for the Hidden Power Ice. If he goes for the Hidden Power Ice and I go into my Nidoqueen, then my Nidoqueen dies to the next Hidden Power Ice anyway. If I go into my Zapdos and he goes for the Thunderbolt, then my Zapdos dies to the next Thunderbolt. So I have to make a mid-ground, something that can kill the Manectric if he stays in. And I need my Dodrio. I cannot give him my Dodrio because the Mimikyu can then Shadow Sneak sweep me. So I can never give him my Dodrio in this game. I have to, at all times, while Mimikyu is alive, Dodrio has to be alive. Always. So it's a really tough point where it's like, I want to call the Mimikyu switch to Scout if I'm Scarf. But if he doesn't Scout, if I get it wrong and he just stays in and Thunderbolts, then I just lose. I just lose to Mimikyu on the spot if he Sword Dance Shadow Sneak. So I can't make that play. I also can't risk him Thunderbolting into the Zapdos, and I can't risk him Hidden Power Icing into Nidoqueen. So I have to go into Breloom here, which could take the Thunderbolt, could take the Hidden Power Ice, and would always be able to Mach Punch kill him anyway. He does go into Mimikyu. It's really, really bad for me because that's the one thing that the Breloom switch couldn't cover particularly well. Maybe I had to just cut my losses and let something go down to the Mega Manectric potentially. I don't know, but it couldn't be the Dodrio. I know that. So anyway, I go out into my Zapdos on the play rough. I'm not static, so I can't paralyze him anyway. I'm pressure, but I can just go for a big Heat Wave here. It would guarantee to break his sub, assuming I landed, or his disguise, sorry. And it gets good chip off. It kills anything that wants to come in. He gets chip off on the guard Trump if he wants to go into that. And it actually did a decent amount of the Espeon here. Now, Espeon is going to be able to pick me off with Psychic. And I still feel like I want Zapdos so that I don't lose to, like, Scarf Earthquake if I end up giving my Dodrio in exchange for Mimikyu or something like that. I don't want Garchomp to Scarf Earthquake sweep me. So I have to make the really aggressive play into my Alakazam and just pray that he isn't playing absolute madness and goes for a Shadow Ball. Psychic still does a decent amount to my Alakazam, and I really, really wanted to recover here, predicting the Manectric sack, and I still wish I had, because getting back to full health would have been really, really nice. It potentially wouldn't matter anyway, but it just would have been nice to have been back to full health for later in the game, but because I knew that he was potentially going to sack the Manectric here, I just go for Signal Beam, praying that he'll give me the Espeon. It's a play of desperation. It's like, please give me the Espeon and not the Manectric, because I don't want you to lose your Intimidate, but he does lose his Intimidate, and it's like, oh, that's not what I needed, because now Breloom cannot win this game, and he can go into Mimikyu. I always knew Mimikyu was going to come in, which is another reason why the recover, although nice, was non-essential, because it was always going to force this situation. The reason that I think it would have been better is because I think I would have taken a Shadow Sneak after a recover. So I think with hindsight, I should have recovered. I should have predicted the Manectric sack. It just made perfect sense from his side. I should have predicted that sack, and I should have clicked recover, because now I would be in a really good spot where I know I could take the Shadow Sneak. Instead, I am in a hell of a bind again. If I switch out here into Dodrio and he goes for Shadow Sneak, ha, I got him. Then I click Brave Bird and I break his disguise, ha, great, as he clicks Sword Stance. Okay, that's fine. He switches out and I've broken his disguise. Brilliant. If he doesn't click Sword Stance and instead he clicks Play Rough, he kills my Dodrio. So, yes, I've got rid of his disguise, but he's also killed my Dodrio, especially if he's Fairy Z, which he could well be. So then that puts me in a really tough spot, because he can still Shadow Sneak sweep me later in the game, and I don't have any good way of dealing with Shadow Sneak right now because my Zapdos is low, my Breloom can't hit him with Mach Punch and is slower than him, so gets Play Roughed anyway, I guess. This thing is going to die to a Shadow Sneak, and if I lose my Dodrio, that's my Shadow Sneak immunity, and my Nidoqueen is down really low too, and probably won't take a Shadow Claw as he probably outspeeds my Nidoqueen. So even if he goes for the Shadow Sneak here and I go into Dodrio, even if I then break his disguise with Dodrio the next turn, him taking my Dodrio still means the Mimikyu can win, right? So it's this really annoying thing where not only do I need to keep Dodrio alive, I also need to make sure that a different Mon breaks Mimikyu's disguise. It's really putting me in that much of a bind. Mimikyu is a real pain to play against. So I have to just Psychic here, and if he Shadow Sneaks, then he can kill me, which is why I feel like the recover was a better play, predicting the Manectric sack. As it happens, he doesn't click the Shadow Sneak here, potentially fearing that it won't KO, so he just goes for the Shadow Claw. Now, obviously, I could have gone into Dodrio and been immune to that as well, but as I've already explained, that really wouldn't have got me a lot. So now I lose my Mega Zam, and again, now I'm in a really tough spot because nothing outspeeds Espeon, nothing outspeeds Scarf Keldeo, nothing outspeeds Scarf Garchomp. So he has phenomenal speed control against my team. The one thing I will say is that Scarf Keldeo and Scarf Keldeo I don't think is going to happen. All the way through this game, I'm playing it very much in mind that I don't think Scarf Keldeo is going to happen. Scarf Garchomp could happen. Scarf Outrage looks incredibly scary. But Scarf Earthquake I can deal with. Scarf Outrage probably beats me. I need to get a Sword Stance off with Breloom so that I can potentially beat Scarf Outrage. So, and then of course he's got the Ditto too. So I'm just in a really tough spot where it could be Scarf Ditto as well. And that could potentially reverse sweep me. So I'm in a really tough spot now where losing my Mega Zam, again because of my positioning, because I allowed the Mega Zam to be in on Mimikyu in that kind of a space where I didn't have any chip on Mimikyu, where I didn't have the rest of my team healthy enough. It really sucks. Really sucks. We take the Brave Bird recoil there, doesn't really matter. We are able to pick up the Oko with the Sharp Beak. He might have thought that if I didn't have Sharp Beak I wouldn't be able to kill him there. He might now think I'm Scarf Adamant. It's hard to say. I think now he'll be able to see my set though, and he will understand that I am potentially not Scarf. I think he would be able to see my attack stat. I don't know if he had the time to do this, but he could have scouted my attack stat from the Scarf, from the Ditto copying me. He could then have put it into his calc and seen that I don't think a Jolly Brave Bird ever kills Mimikyu from full, and then he would have been like, okay, he's some kind of boosting item, right? Potentially banded, because I haven't switched up moves and I kind of been bluffing Scarf a little bit. Here, I have to sack something to my own Dodrio. I could go into Zapdos predicting the Brave Bird in the hope that I could keep that around, but it really didn't seem worth it. Nidoqueen loses to Keldeo, Nidoqueen loses to Garchomp, Nidoqueen loses to itself when it's copied by Ditto, and Nidoqueen loses to Espeon. So I just had to sack Nidoqueen. And the great thing about him locking into Brave Bird would have been that I could have then gone into Zapdos and reached it up. And the great thing about him locking into Return is that Return never kills Breloom, which is huge because Breloom now actually can potentially break down his team to the point where Dodrio plus Zapdos can win. If he gives me the right things, I'm actually in a really good spot here. So I'm just going to go for the Sword Stance because I could have gone for the Spore. And I probably should have done with hindsight. Like, it doesn't matter too much. I essentially have to Spore whatever comes in anyway. The reason that I didn't want to go for the Spore is because he could have quite easily gone hard Espeon. And if he went hard Espeon and bounced it back, I got nothing out the turn, and then I had to try and switch in something on Espeon. By going for the Sword Stance at +2, I kill Espeon from the range of damage it's at with Mach Punch, I think. So that's why I decided to go for the Sword Stance, but maybe he was never ever going to go into Espeon there. I don't know. I think Espeon was possible. If he wanted to, you know, potentially Fierce Sub, something like that, Espeon was definitely possible. So I still think I probably made the right play going for the Sword Stance. I can take any hit from this Garchomp unless he's like banded Outrage, or unless he's got like, I don't know, Specs in Power Flying or something. I don't know. We do just take that, but we can't take rough skin damage from him or we are gonna die. So we do go for the Spore there. We do get the Spore off, super nice, and here I am free to just go for the Bullet Seed. As long as I get more than 2 hits, I guarantee to kill I think any Garchomp variant, and as long as he doesn't wake up on the first turn, the next turn, even if I only get 2 hits, we're guaranteed to kill this Garchomp. And what that means is that Mach Punch, as I say, if it goes into Espeon, Mach Punch will kill him. If he copies my own Breloom and goes into his Ditto here, so if we only get 2 hits for starters, which sucks, but as long as he doesn't get a first turn wake, because yes, he was asleep that turn, but you're always guaranteed 1 sleep turn. Remember, it was a slow Spore, not a fast Spore. So as long as he doesn't get a first turn wake here, which, you know, RNG, he just got 2 rolls on Bullet Punch. Please do not get a first turn wake here. He then has to go into the Espeon to try and kill me. Well, Mach Punch will pick him off. That wouldn't be great. He can go into Ditto to try and kill me, which he has to Mach Punch to kill me because my own Breloom Okos a Ditto copying me. Does that make sense? If he copies me with a Ditto, I will Oko him with Mach Punch. So that doesn't help him. He has to lock into Mach Punch, and then Zapdos gets to Roost, and Zapdos can potentially beat Espeon plus Keldeo once it's roosted up, maybe. Certainly with Dodrio around to outspeed certainly the Keldeo. It really looked quite good for me, actually. I have to deal with the Ditto as well, of course, but Ditto can't copy Zapdos to beat Zapdos. So if I just position very carefully in this endgame, I actually could be in a really good spot here. It could go to Keldeo to KO me, but that Mach Punch damage into Keldeo is really nice too. And then that gives me a Dodrio to basically just claim a kill. So there are ways that I can certainly win this game. And that looks really nice. All I need to do is not get a first turn wake here, as he does get the first turn wake and fires off the Earthquake to KO us, which is nice because it reveals he isn't choiced in any kind, because he didn't just go for the Outrage again. But sucks that he got the first turn wake. Now, I'm not saying that I would have won from this point, but I'm saying like there are still ways that I can do it. Now it gets really tough. Potentially I can still do it if I can beat Ditto plus Espeon with Zapdos and I get the right positioning. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go for the knockoff. The reason I'm going to go for the knockoff is because I've been showing like I'm choiced all game. He knows that potentially my Brave Bird wouldn't have killed his Mimikyu with a choice Scarf. So this looks as though I could well be choice banded. And if you wanted to go into something on a choice banded knockoff, are you going to go to Espeon that speed ties with me? Hell no. If it's even max speed Espeon, hell no. Are you going to go into the Ditto that potentially might have to Brave Bird to KO me, which then just gives me my Zapdos to roost up? Doesn't sound like a good line. Or are you going to go into the Keldeo, which would take resisted damage from a banded knockoff anyway and be able to KO me? So that's why I went for the knockoff there to pick up the KO, just so that if we were banded, it would kind of force out the Keldeo. And this is huge because now I can just Brave Bird this thing and pick it off with a shot beat Brave Bird. Other than he is Scarf Keldeo, and I will be completely transparent. I didn't think Scarf Keldeo had matchup. I played this whole game assuming it wouldn't be. And right now, at this point in the game, I'm on massive tilt because I'm like, man, this guy has got me so many times, and that's not shade at him. Like that's kudos to him. Like, he got me with the hidden power fire straight into my scissor. He got me with the double hidden power fire into my scissor when I would have bullet punched him. And again, I said earlier in the game, I think that was the correct play. He got me by bringing Scarf Keldeo against a goddamn Jellicent, which I never thought would happen. So I have been just out-prepped and outplayed this entire game. And a lot of it is full credit to him, but I won't lie, a part of it is discredit to me. Like, I've played badly, and I'm really annoyed with myself about that too. And I'm at this point in the game, I'm really, really dejected. So here, I don't go for the Roost, which is always my correct play, because the Scold, I know Scarf Scold isn't gonna 2-hit KO me. He isn't going to do 50%, so I should have just gone for the Roost, and the reason I should have just gone for the Roost here is not because it could have soloed the rest of his team, but because the Thunderbolt doesn't even kill Keldeo. So I could have saved a point of differential, I'm pretty sure. Maybe he would have burnt me before I'd had the opportunity to do so. It's hard to say, but I could have tried to save a point of differential regardless. So yeah, this was one of those where you have all these like assumptions about your opponent's team, you have all these ideas for how this game will play out, and then you just start so badly that you can never recover, and you just don't get the little bit of like luck that you need to even pull it back to a closer game. And my opponent fully deserved the win here. Like, I'm not complaining. I know I said, you know, I only got 2 bullet seeds with the Breloom. I only got the first turn Wake with the Garchomp, stuff like that. I'm not really complaining about that because that's RNG and it happens. You can't bank on getting those things that you want. What I'm frustrated with more so is how poorly I put myself in a position where I needed those things to even have a close to a chance. Not a guaranteed win, mind you, to just be in with a fighting chance. That's how poorly I played this game. So yeah, really, really disappointed with the way I played this one. Hopefully you guys kind of understand what I was trying to say here, especially in the early game about my early positioning and how bad it was. But yeah, just not good enough. Just not good enough this week, and I can only apologize. But that is meant as no discredit to my opponent, who deserved a win, who played phenomenally, who is a great guy and a very good YouTuber, so you should go and check him out. Honestly, we've had some great battles this season, and this was no change. Just because I played badly doesn't mean we didn't come up against a top player, so full credit and respect to him. GG to my man, TheKillerNacho. Next week, we do go up against Mr. Chabri, I think it is. Chabri or Chabri, I'm not sure how you pronounce the CH sound exactly. And his Floridian Typhlosions, I want to say. I feel like that's Silver Smash's team name, though. But I think that's right. Is it Indiana Typhlosions? It's a place in America. And Typhlosions. We'll find out together next week. Yeah, I hope you guys are looking forward to that one. That will hopefully be a little bit less slow paced than this one in terms of my very painstaking commentary about how bad I am, regardless. Thank you so much for loafing around with me, and I'll catch you again next time.